A German reconnaissance patrol crouched behind a low sand ridge near El Alamein, midday sun, bleaching the desert into blinding whites. Helmeted soldiers pressed into the grit with MP40s ready, sweat-darkened tunics clinging to their backs as a lone British staff car approaches in the distance, its dust plume cutting a sharp diagonal across the empty horizon. The instant of ambush, muzzle flashes erupt from the ridge as bullets strike the staff car, glass shattering midair, a front tire collapsing in a spray of sand and metal. The vehicle slewing sideways while heat haze ripples the background dunes under the harsh Egyptian sun. Close, ground-level frame of the British officer bursting from the crippled car. Leather satchel clutched to his chest, boots skidding in loose sand as tracer rounds kick up fountains at his feet. His face frozen between panic and resolve. German soldiers fanning out tactically, rifles leveled. One loinet standing half exposed with arm raised in command, wind snapping at loose straps. In map cases, the captured officer halted mid-step, with hands rising, desert stretching endlessly behind him. Tight composition on the satchel being torn open on the hood of the disabled car. Rolled maps and typed orders spilling out, gloved hands pinning the papers down against the wind. Sunlight catching British insignia and stamped headings in stark contrast to Rommel's forward headquarters. The canvas command tent, pitched in open desert, its flaps billowing as staff officers enter with the captured documents. The low sun casting long, angular shadows across crates, radios, and field tables. Intimate interior shot of Rommel bent over the maps, lantern light illuminating his sharp features and dust-lined face. Fingers tracing British supply routes while officers crowd behind him, their expressions tense, shadows climbing the tent walls like specters. Over the shoulder view of Rommel reading Montgomery's orders, the paper creased and stained, lists of reinforcements visible. His jaw clenched as the lantern throws hard contrast between his hands and the darkened background. The captured British signals officer seated on a crate outside the tent. Wrists bound, uniform rumpled and dust-caked, chin lifted defiantly toward unseen interrogators. Guards standing rigid nearby with rifles silhouetted against the glowing sky. Wide shot of the Africa Corps camp at dusk. Vehicles parked in loose rows, men silhouetted against a blood-red horizon. The desert floor littered with jerry cans and spare tracks, an atmosphere heavy with anticipation and unease. Rommel stepping out of the tent alone, boots crunching in sand, binoculars hanging unused at his chest, staring toward the distant front as artillery flashes flicker faintly on the horizon beneath a darkening sky. Staff officers clustered around a field table outdoors, flashlights illuminating sections of the captured maps, fingers pointing at minefields and gun lines, cigarette smoke drifting upward into the night air. Night patrol scene. German infantry moving cautiously through moonlit dunes, rifles at the ready, faces ghostly under steel helmets. Flares bursting overhead and freezing the landscape in stark white light. Close-up of Rommel's hands marking positions on the map with a grease pencil. Veins prominent, shadows sharp, the paper weighted down by a pistol and compass against the desert moon. Long exposure-style frame of distant artillery firing, gun crews. Silhouetted as muzzle blasts bloom, shock waves kicking up sand clouds. The desert night fractured by light and smoke. Axis tanks parked hull down behind a ridge, crews silhouetted against starlight, engines quiet, spare track links hanging like armor. The stillness before battle, palpable in the composition. Interior of the command tent, late at night, Rommel seated alone at the table, flashlight beam cutting across his face and the captured plans. Empty mugs and ashtrays suggesting hours without rest. A runner arriving breathless at headquarters, dust-coated boots mid-stride saluting sharply as officers turned toward him. Radios and signal lamps glowing in the background, pre-dawn desert stillness. Rommel, standing with his staff as the sky lightens, the maps folded under his arm, tanks and trucks emerging from shadow. The coming battle implied by posture and framing. Final wide shot of the desert under a star-filled sky, Rommel's headquarters reduced to silhouette stunts. Vehicles figures stiny against the vast emptiness. The captured British plans lying illuminated on a table, a silent omen of the struggle to come, the ambush frozen mid-chaos. Bullets striking the staff car rubber tires. Shredded the vehicle slewing sideways in a cloud of dust and gravel. The British driver slumped over the wheel while the officer in the back door scrambles out, clutching a leather satchel sunlight, catching the flying debris in sharp contrast. Close ground-level shot of the captured British officer standing rigid with hands raised, maps spilling from the open satchel at his feet. German soldiers encircling him with MP40s, leveled desert wind whipping loose papers as cordite smoke hangs low over the sand. Inside a German command tent, Rommel leans over a rough wooden table strewn with captured maps. Lantern light carving deep shadows across his lined face. Cigarette smoke curling upward as staff officers crowd in, their expressions tightening at the scale of Allied buildup revealed on the paper. Over-the-shoulder composition of Rommel's gloved hand, tracing thick arrows on a British operations map. Minefields. Artillery arcs, supply routes while Bayerline peers in, his face half-lit, the canvas walls behind them rippling in the hot wind. A bound British signals officer sits under guard at the edge of the tent, dust-caked uniform torn at the elbows. Defiant eyes staring upward as German boots and map cases frame him in the foreground. The imbalance of power captured starkly. Wide shot of the Africa Corps camp coming alive at morning. Panzer III tanks coughing smoke, Italian trucks being coaxed into motion. Soldiers queuing at water points with canteens, the rising sun bleaching the desert into harsh whites and deep blacks. Rommel pacing outside his tent, boots crunching sand, binoculars hanging forgotten at his chest as he stares toward the distant British lines. The photographer catching him in profile against a blazing horizon, isolation emphasized by the empty space around him. Interior tent scene of Rommel slamming his fist onto the map table. Papers lifting into the air, officers flinching mid-motion. The moment lit starkly from above to emphasize tension and sudden anger. A grim logistics tableau. German mechanics cannibalizing a disabled half-track. Greasy hands stripping parts while another vehicle waits nearby, missing its engine cowling. Faces hollow with fatigue, the desert littered with broken machinery. Italian Bersaglieri infantry resting in shallow trenches. Feathered helmets slung low, boots worn thin. Men sharing a single water bottle as they scan the sky nervously. Distant RAF aircraft specks visible above. British Desert Air Force Hurricanes streak low over Axis positions, wings flashing in the sun, dust, and smoke erupting along a supply road below as German troops scatter for cover. The photographer capturing motion, blur, and violence in one frame. I fall over the front. Flares hanging overhead like artificial moons, illuminating ghostly silhouettes of tanks and gun crews. Long shadows stretching across mine-strewn sand, while distant artillery flashes puncture the darkness. Rommel hunched over the maps by flashlight late at night. Face gaunt, eyes sunken. Pencil marking defensive lines as exhaustion shows in his posture. A small cone of light swallowed by surrounding blackness. A German radio operator transmitting urgent reports, headphones clamped tight, sweat beading on his forehead, fingers gripping the microphone, while signal wires snake across the tent floor in the darkness. Long lens shot of British armored columns massing far off. Grant's and early Shermans silhouetted in dust clouds. The sheer scale of buildup emphasized by endless vehicles stretching to the horizon. Axis artillery crews digging in at El Alamein. 88mm guns being manhandled into position, men straining under the weight as sandbags pile high, the sun casting hard shadows that sharpen every muscle and rhythm. Rommel, addressing his officers at dusk, standing rigid with hands on hips, the men forming a tight semicircle around him. Faces grim but attentive, the fading light turning the scene somber and final. A quiet, ominous frame of the desert at night, after skirmishing abandoned shell casings glinting in moonlight. Smoke drifting low, the land scarred and silent, suggesting the calm before a greater storm. Final image. Rommel alone, outside his tent under a star-filled sky, diary open in his hands, a single lantern at his feet. The vast desert stretching endlessly behind him, an intimate, stark portrait of a commander realizing the tide has begun to turn.